I never told my ex-fiancée I left the ring on the table on purpose because I knew if I gave it back to her face, she'd try to explain, and I didn't want an explanation. I wanted the silence that finally made the truth impossible to ignore. Some people remember the date, or the weather, or the last thing someone said before everything came undone. Me? I remember a half-empty carton of almond milk and the smell of cleaning spray. That's what I was doing the night I decided to put the ring back on the table. Cleaning. Nothing major, just clearing out old food, wiping down surfaces. It had been 3 days since she left. The apartment still smelled a little like her perfume when the sun hit the bedroom curtains just right. She didn't say goodbye. Didn't text. No, we need to talk, no dramatic fight. I came home and her side of the closet was empty, and sitting in the middle of the kitchen table. In between some junk mail and a grocery list she must have written before she made up her mind was the engagement ring. Just sitting there. No note. No box. Just metal on wood. That was her way. Efficient. Detached. Neat, even in endings. We've been engaged for 13 months. Together for 4 years. Lived in that apartment for almost 2. We had a routine. Shared bills. Shared a dog, although she took him with her. I didn't fight her on that. He loved her more anyway. The last night we spent together, we had tacos from the place down the block. She offered to pick them up, which was rare. We ate in front of the TV. I remember she didn't finish hers, left the last one untouched. Said she wasn't that hungry. I asked how work was. She said fine. I nodded. We watched something stupid. I don't remember what. She laughed once, one of those short, polite laughs you do when you're trying to act normal. I went to bed later than her. She kissed the top of my head and said, "I'm really tired." I said, "Okay. Love you." She hesitated, then said it back. Quietly, like she was already halfway gone. That night, I stayed up scrolling through old texts. Ours. From when we used to joke. From when she used to send me pictures of things she saw that made her think of me. Those stopped around the same time she met him. I didn't know it was him then. I just thought maybe life was getting busy. Maybe we were in that comfortable phase. Maybe things always get dull. I was wrong. It started with little things. She started staying late at work more often. Her phone was always face down, always on silent. She started dressing different, not drastically, but like she cared more about how she looked for someone else. Someone who wasn't me. I didn't say anything at first. Then I found the hotel receipt. It was in her jacket pocket. She'd asked me to grab her wallet while she was in the shower, and the receipt slipped out when I picked it up. One of those nice places downtown. The kind you book if you want to feel like you're somewhere else for a while. It was dated 3 weeks earlier. Saturday check-in. Monday check-out. 1 room. 2 guests. That was the moment I felt something break in my chest. Not loudly. Quietly. Like a slow tear. She told me she was at her friend's bachelorette that weekend. She even showed me a group selfie. Now I realize how easy it is to lie with photos. I didn't confront her. I don't know why. Maybe I was afraid of what it would mean if she didn't deny it. Maybe I thought she'd cry or twist it or make it my fault somehow. So I kept it. I folded it, put it in my wallet, and carried it with me for 2 weeks. Just watching her. Studying her face every time she smiled, wondering who she was really thinking about. Listening to her brush her teeth in our bathroom and realizing how far gone she already was. And then one day I came home and she was gone. Just like that. No final argument. No slamming doors. Just an empty closet and a ring on the table. Should have hurt. Maybe it did. But mostly I just felt numb. Like she'd taken something with her that I couldn't name. 3 days later, I was cleaning out the fridge. Trying to do something that made me feel in control. And that's when I saw it. Her almond milk expired, still sitting in the back. She always drank almond milk. I never liked the taste. She used to tease me about that. And somehow standing there holding that old carton I broke. I dropped it in the trash, walked to the drawer where I kept the ring box, and pulled it out. I thought about texting her. Or calling. Telling her she forgot it. But I couldn't. Because I knew what would happen. She'd come over. She'd sit across from me. She'd cry maybe. Say she was sorry. Or confused. Or lonely. Or that it didn't mean anything. And I couldn't do that. I didn't want her tears. I didn't want her guilt. I wanted her silence. So I left the ring on the table. Same place she left it. Not in the box. Just sitting there. Waiting. She came back when I wasn't home. I know because the ring was gone the next day. But nothing else had been touched. She didn't leave a note. Didn't call. Didn't say a word. And I never told her that I knew. Because if I'd looked her in the eye and said, "I know what you did," she would have turned it into a conversation. A story. Something messy and emotional that she could maybe one day forgive herself for. But this way, the silence is hers to carry. And maybe that's the only kind of justice I get. A few weeks passed. It was quiet. Too quiet. I stopped checking my phone for her messages, but every time it buzzed, I still hoped for a second that it might be her. Even though I didn't want to talk to her, not really. I just wanted her to want to talk to me. That's the difference no one tells you about. Grief isn't always about missing the person. Sometimes it's just about missing being chosen. One night, I got a text from an unknown number. It said, "I think you deserve to know everything. Can we talk?" No name. No context. But I knew. I stared at the screen for 5 minutes. I didn't respond. I blocked the number. 2 days later, I saw him. I was walking out of the corner store, just grabbing a soda and some aspirin, and there he was, standing by his car. Her car, actually, the one she'd been driving for years. I guess she gave it to him, or maybe he took it. He didn't see me, or if he did, he didn't react. He was looking down at his phone, leaning against the hood like he owned it, like he had never taken anything from anyone. I stood across the street and just watched. He was younger than me, taller, cleaner looking. The kind of guy you bring home to impress people who don't know you well. And then it hit me, I'd seen him before. At our engagement party. He was there. I remember because I asked her who he was and she said, "Oh, he's just a guy from work. He's harmless." That word stuck with me for a long time. Harmless. Now he was driving her car and texting her from her phone and standing in my neighborhood like nothing ever happened. And still, I didn't say anything. I just walked home. Sat on the edge of the bed we used to share. Opened the drawer where the ring box used to be. And that's when I realized something else. The receipt I had kept, the hotel one, was gone. I checked everywhere. My wallet. My coat pockets. The drawer. It wasn't there. I don't know how or when, but it was gone. At first, I thought maybe I misplaced it. But something in my gut told me otherwise. She came back for it. Not just for the ring. She came back to clean up the rest of her tracks. And that somehow hurt more than everything else. Because it meant she wasn't just sorry. She was covering. Not for me. For him. For herself. For whatever story she was going to tell next. And now I was the only one who knew the truth. And even I didn't have proof anymore. I didn't tell anyone. Not my friends. Not my brother. Not even my coworker Paul, who I used to talk to about everything during lunch breaks. First it was shame. Then it turned into something else. Something harder to name. A kind of quiet bitterness I carried with me everywhere. I started going to a different grocery store, one a few miles further, because I couldn't stand the chance of running into her. Or him. But it didn't matter. The city wasn't big enough. I saw her 2 months later at a bookstore. She was alone. Wearing the green coat I bought her last Christmas. Her hair looked longer. She looked fine. She didn't see me. Or if she did, she didn't let it show. I watched her pick up a book, flip through a few pages, then put it back. She used to do that when she couldn't focus. She'd pick things up just to feel them, then leave them exactly where they were. And just like that, something clicked in my head. I followed her. Not far. Just a few steps behind. Enough to stay close, but out of sight. I know how that sounds. Pathetic, obsessive. But I wasn't trying to confront her. I just needed to see her as a real person again. Not the ghost I kept talking to in my head. She went to the checkout, bought something small, then walked outside. I stayed behind a display shelf and waited a minute before I stepped out too. She got into a car. Not her old one. A new one. Different plates. I stared at it as she pulled away. And then I saw the passenger seat. A booster seat. I froze. I stared at that little piece of plastic like it had punched me in the chest. She never wanted kids. That was always our deal. We had that talk early on. She was clear. I accepted it. We built our life around it. And now, here she was with a car seat in the front and a completely different life in the rear view. I stood on the sidewalk until my legs went numb. I didn't move. I didn't speak. I just kept replaying everything in my head. The hotel, the ring, the silence, and now this. I didn't know if it was hers, or his, or theirs, but that didn't matter. What mattered was, she had already started over. Not just with someone else, but with everything we said we didn't want. And I was still sitting in the wreckage of the version of life she left behind. That night, I did something I hadn't done in months. Called her. No answer. I didn't leave a message. I just sat there with the dial tone ringing in my ears, over and over again, like it was trying to tell me something I hadn't been willing to hear. The next morning, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I let it ring. Then it rang again, and again. On the third try, I answered. I was tired of being the one avoiding everything. It wasn't her. It was her sister. We hadn't spoken in almost a year. She and I were never especially close, but there was always mutual respect. She was calmer than my ex, more straightforward. And now her voice was tight, like she didn't want to be the one making this call, but had no choice. I don't want to get involved, she said without saying hello. But there are things you should probably know. I didn't say anything. I just waited. She went on. She's not doing great. I mean, she says she is, but she's not. And I'm not trying to excuse anything, I think you're still holding pieces of this that she never had the guts to carry. I stayed silent. She miscarried, she said. I felt the air leave my lungs. It happened a few weeks after she moved out. She didn't tell anyone for a while. Not even me. She said it wasn't yours. But then she started saying other things that didn't make sense. I sat down. She told me about the hotel, about how she thought you knew. She thought you didn't love her anymore, that you were just waiting for her to leave. She said that. I asked finally. She said she thought the silence meant you didn't care. I almost laughed. A sharp, bitter sound. That wasn't silence, I said. That was restraint. There was a long pause. She's not with him anymore, her sister added quietly. It didn't last. I stared at the floor, at a dent in the baseboard I'd never noticed before. She always said you were the kindest person she ever met, even when she messed it up. I didn't know what to say to that, because kind is just another word people use when they walk away from someone who would have stayed. She didn't tell you about the miscarriage because she didn't think she deserved to, her sister said. She thinks you hate her. I wanted to tell her I didn't. But I couldn't say that and mean it, because it wasn't just about what she did, it was about how easy she made it look. How cleanly she walked away. How deliberately she erased me from the story she was building. And now suddenly I was supposed to carry her pain too? No, not this time. We said goodbye. Nothing emotional. Just a quiet thanks and a click. I sat with the weight of it. A child that might have existed. A life she built in secret. A story she tried to rewrite after deleting the old one. And the ring, that damn ring, sitting somewhere in her drawer now, probably tucked away with everything else she never wanted to admit. Sometimes I still check that drawer, like the receipt might show up again, like proof would make a difference now. But it's empty, just like the part of me that used to wait for her to come back and explain. And the truth is, even if she did, I'm not sure I'd want to hear it. Because if someone can leave that quietly, take your dog, your ring, your trust, and still try to rewrite the story like you were just some chapter they grew out of, then maybe the silence was the most honest thing either of us ever gave each other. And I guess that's what hurts the most. Not that she lied. Not that she left. But that she never looked back.